Hello, and welcome. The story of a mummy often begins for us with its end a dark tomb, a golden sarcophagus, and whispers of a curse. But its true story begins not with a curse, but with a quiet, sacred, and meticulous craft. In the hands of a priest, who was also a surgeon. Before we enter his silent workshop, if you enjoy these journeys into the past, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. I'd also love to know where you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights, find your most comfortable position, and let's discover the reality behind this ancient, sacred ritual. Our story begins in the year 1250, before the Common Era. Under the reign of the great pharaoh Ramesses II, it is late afternoon in the city of Thebes, on the west bank of the Nile. Here, in the shadow of the Valley of the Kings, lies the necropolis, a city dedicated not to the living, but to the dead and their eternal journey. The air is thick with the heat of the day, heavy with the scent of dust, baked earth, and the distant sweet perfume of temple incense. The sounds are muted here, the rhythmic chipping of a sculptor's chisel, the soft scrape of a coffin maker's plane, the low hum of a city that works for the afterlife. This is your world. Your name is Hapu, and you are a Reseshta, a master of secrets. You are an embalmer. Your hands are the bridge between the world of the living and the eternal fields of Aru. You do not work in a place of darkness or fear. You work in the Wabbit, the place of purification. It is a simple, open-air building of mud brick walls. Its floor made of smooth, cool stone that is perpetually damp. One side is open to the sky, but covered with a roof of palm leaves to keep the worst of the sun at bay. The air inside smells not of decay, but of purpose. It smells of clean linen, of dry natron salt that pulls moisture from the very air, of myrrh, cedar oil, and sacred resins. This is a place of ritual, a workshop for eternity. You are sitting on a low wooden stool, carefully sharpening a small blade made of obsidian. The volcanic glass, when freshly flaked, holds an edge sharper than any bronze. It is a sacred tool used for a single sacred purpose. Your movements are slow, deliberate, honed by years of practice. Each scrape of the stone against the glass is a quiet prayer. Around you, your assistants work in a practiced silence. One is weaving fresh linen bandages, his fingers a blur of white. Another is grinding juniper berries in a heavy stone mortar, the rhythmic thump-thump, a steady heartbeat in the quiet workshop. There is no rush here. The journey to the afterlife cannot be hurried. You are not fighting against time. You are its servant. The rhythm of the afternoon is broken by the arrival of a boy, a runner from the main city across the river. He stops at the threshold of the Wabbit, hesitant to enter this sacred space. He bows his head. "Master Hapu," he says, his voice low and respectful. "You are summoned." The nobleman Kinnaman has begun his journey to Osiris. You feel no surprise, only a quiet sense of duty. Kinnaman was old, a respected vizier who had served the pharaoh's father. His time had come. You carefully wrap your sharpened obsidian blade in a piece of clean linen and place it in a wooden box. You'd rinse your hands in a basin of cool water, speaking a quiet word of thanks to Hapi, the god of the Nile. Then you rise. Your assistants already know what to do. They begin preparing the tools and materials, their movements fluid and efficient. You follow the boy out of the quiet of the necropolis and toward the ferry that will take you across the river. The sun is beginning to dip toward the western hills, casting long shadows and bathing the cliffs in a warm golden light. The world of the living is still a loud and vibrant place. The sounds of the docks are a cacophony of shouting merchants, braying donkeys, and the creak of wooden ships. You board the ferry, your simple white linen robe setting you apart from the colorful clothes of the tradesmen and farmers. You are a man who walks between worlds, and people give you a respectful distance. As you cross the great Nile, you look back at the west bank. You see the temples, the tombs, and your own humble Wabbit. This is the land of the setting sun, the land of the dead.
Yeah.
The east bank, where you are headed, is the land of the rising sun, the land of the living. We're the ferryman's counterpart, guiding souls not across the water, but across the threshold of eternity itself. You arrive at the nobleman's estate, a large and beautiful villa surrounded by gardens. The moment you step through the gate, you hear the sounds of mourning. It's not just the quiet sobs of the family, but the loud, ritualized wailing of the Jarrett, the professional mourners. These are women, their hair disheveled, their faces streaked with dust, their clothes torn. They beat their chests and cry out Kenneman's name, their voices rising and falling in a practiced lament. This is not for show. It is a necessary part of the grieving process, a public declaration of a great man's passing. It is a chaos you must walk through with perfect calm. You are led into the central courtyard of the villa. There, laid out on a low couch, is the silent form of Kennemon. His wife, Nefret, kneels beside him. Her grief is real, a quiet and profound sorrow that stands in stark contrast to the loud wailing outside. She rises as you approach, her eyes red but her composure dignified. She knows who you are. She knows why you are here. Master Hapu, she says, her voice trembling slightly. My husband needs your care. He must be made ready for his journey. You bow your head in respect. It will be an honor, lady. His soul is already in the care of Anubis. I am here to tend to the vessel he has left behind, to make it a fitting home for his Ka and Ba to return to. This is the beginning of the negotiation. It is a delicate and important ritual in itself. Your craft has different levels, each with its own cost, each with its own promise of permanence. You sit with Neferet, and in a calm, soothing voice, you explain the options, much like a master craftsman explaining the quality of his materials. For the most perfect preservation, you begin, your voice a low murmur, the method favored by the house of Pharaoh himself. We begin by preparing the mind. You describe the delicate process of removing the brain through the nostrils, ensuring the face remains serene and untouched. Then, a sacred incision is made upon the flank with the obsidian blade. Through this, we release the organs that hold the memory of breath and hunger, the liver, the lungs, the stomach, and the intestines. They are not discarded, you reassure her gently. They are washed in palm wine, purified with spices, and placed under the protection of the 4 sons of Horus to be kept safe in sacred canopic jars. You describe how the body is then filled with the finest myrrh, cassia, and other fragrant herbs and sewn shut. And then the long, patient wait. The vessel is then laid in a bed of pure natron salt for 70 days, you explain. The salt is the breath of the desert, and it will draw all moisture, all memory of the world of the living, from the flesh, leaving it eternal. This is the most expensive, most elaborate process. You then describe the second option, a more modest but still effective method. We can forego the incision, you say.
Yes.
Instead, we introduce cedar oil into the body. It is a powerful oil that works from within. After a time, the oil is released, and with it, all that is perishable. The body is then also placed in the natron salt to ensure its permanence. It is quicker, less intricate, but still a powerful shield against decay. Finally, you describe the simplest method for those with little means. The body is cleansed internally and then laid in the natron for the 70 days. It preserves the form, allowing the soul to recognize its home. Neferet does not hesitate. Kinemon was a great man. He deserves the greatest care. He will have the finest preservation, she declares. Spare no expense. He must be able to walk in the fields of Aru in a form as perfect as the one he had in life. You nod, and the agreement is sealed. The price is set, a sum of silver, oils, fine linen, and grain, enough to support your workshop and your family for many months. Your assistants, who had waited at the gate, now come forward. They bring a simple wooden bier. With the utmost care and reverence, you and your team lift the silent form of Kinemon. The family follows you, their quiet sobbing now replacing the loud wails of the professional mourners. Your journey back to the Wabbit is a slow, solemn procession. As you walk toward the ferry, the sun has finally touched the horizon, and the sky is a blaze of orange and purple. You are leaving the city of the living at the end of the day, carrying one of its own to the city of the dead. You do not take him directly to the Wabbits. First, you must go to a special tent erected near the water's edge. This is the IBU, the tent of purification. Here, the final connection to the living world will be washed away. The body of Kinemon is placed on a sloped wooden table. With large jars, your assistants bring water directly from the Nile. This is not just water. It is the lifeblood of Egypt, the sacred fluid of the god Hapi. It is the same water that nourished Kinemon in life. Now, it will purify him in death. As the last light of day fades, you begin the ritual washing. You pour the cool water over the still form, chanting the ancient prayers. You are washing away the dust of his earthly life, the sweat of his labors, the tears of his sorrows. You are making him clean for the gods. You wash his hands, his feet, his face, each movement a sacred gesture. This is a baptism, a rebirth into a different kind of existence. The water runs off the table and back into the dark soil, returning the last vestiges of life to the land. When the washing is complete, the body is pure. It is ready. The sacred and technical work can now begin. You and your assistants carry the bier away from the river and into the lamplit quiet of your workshop. The heavy work, the work of secrets, is about to start. The world of men and their grief is left behind. You have now entered the world of the gods, and for the next 70 days, this silent form is your sole responsibility. The Wabbit is different at night. The harsh light of the sun has been replaced by the soft, flickering glow of a dozen clay oil lamps. They cast deep shadows that dance upon the mud brick walls, making the familiar space feel more like a temple than a workshop. The heat of the day has finally broken, and a cool breeze drifts in from the desert, carrying the scent of sand and the distant silence of the stars. The only sounds are the gentle hiss of the lamp wicks and the soft, rhythmic movements of your assistants as they lay out their tools upon a clean linen cloth. There is no conversation. Words are not needed here. Every action is a part of an ancient and unchanging ritual. The body of Kinemon now rests upon the main embalming table. It is a large slab of smooth, cool limestone tilted ever so slightly toward a groove that leads to a collecting basin on the floor. It is a simple, practical design that has served your trade for centuries. You stand before the silent form, your hands clasped, and offer a quiet prayer to Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guides the dead through the underworld. You ask him to watch over your hands, to guide your tools, and to find your work acceptable. This is not merely a technical procedure. It is a sacred duty, and you are his humble servant on this earth. Your first task is one of the most delicate, one of the great secrets of your craft. You must prepare the head. To the Egyptians, the heart, the IB, was the seat of intelligence, memory, and emotion. The brain was seen as little more than cranial stuffing, a meaningless substance that had to be removed to prevent decay from setting in from within. But it had to be removed without disturbing the serene expression of the face, for the soul would need to recognize its own features for all eternity. One of your assistants brings you a small, heavy wooden box. You open it to reveal your tools. They are not the crude implements of a butcher. They are precise, almost surgical in their design. There is a small bronze chisel, no wider than your thumb, and a light wooden mallet. And then there is the most important tool, a long, slender bronze rod, nearly the length of your forearm. One end is smooth and rounded, while the other is hooked, twisted into a delicate spiral. You take this hook in your hand, feeling its familiar weight. You have used it 1,000 times. You turn your attention to the head of Keneman. The assistant gently cradles it, holding it steady for you. You take a moment to look at the nobleman's face. In the soft lamplight, he looks peaceful, as if merely asleep. Your work must not disturb that peace. You take the small chisel and place its tip just inside the left nostril, aiming for the thin, delicate wall of bone that separates the nasal cavity from the cranium. This is the ethmoid bone, a fragile lattice that is the secret gateway to the mind. You murmur another quiet prayer. Then, with a single, precise tap of the mallet, you break through. There is a soft crack, a sound that is immediately absorbed by the silence of the wobbit. There is no visible damage. From the outside, nothing has changed, but you have created the path you need. You set aside the chisel and mallet. Your work now requires not force, but a patient and delicate touch. You take the long bronze hook. First, you use the straight end, inserting it gently into the nostril and through the opening you have just created. You move it slowly, carefully, breaking up the soft matter within the skull. Your movements are not random. You have a perfect mental map of the inside of a human head, a knowledge passed down from master to master. You are like a potter, working with clay you cannot see, relying only on the feeling transmitted through the bronze rod. You work for a long time, the only sound the soft, wet scraping from within. The air grows thick with a unique metallic scent. When you are satisfied that the contents of the cranium are sufficiently broken down, you withdraw the rod. You turn it around and now insert the hooked end. To my Sime. Hun for sigh for a fine limb. I sense I don for I sen and sense and now I sense and I sen and I sense and 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 sen up in him sense sense. You gently twist and pull, drawing out the brain matter piece by piece. You work with an incredible slowness. Each piece is removed and placed in a bowl filled with sand. This is not a harvest to be saved, but a waste to be disposed of. It will later be buried in the desert, returned to the earth without ceremony. This process takes hours. The lamps flicker, the shadows lengthen, and the night deepens outside. Your assistants remain silent and watchful, ready with a fresh cloth or a bowl of water. Your concentration is absolute. Your back aches and your fingers grow stiff, but you do not stop. You are in a state of focused meditation, your entire being dedicated to this one task. You must remove every last fragment. Any part left behind could become a source of corruption, a flaw in the vessel you are preparing for eternity. As you work, you think of Kenneman's Ka, his life force, and his Ba, his soul personality. You imagine them on their journey through the underworld, facing the trials and judgments of the gods. You know that soon his heart will be weighed against the feather of Mat, the goddess of truth. If his heart is heavy with sin, it will be devoured, and his existence will end. But if it is light and pure, he will be allowed to enter the fields of Aru, the Egyptian paradise. And when he arrives, he will need a home to return to, a perfect and unchanging body. That is the purpose of your painstaking work. You are building a house for a soul. Finally, after what seems like an entire night, you are finished. The cranial cavity is empty. You can feel it with the tip of your probe. You withdraw the hook for the last time. You must cleanse the space you have created. An assistant brings you a small jug of palm wine. It's a strong, potent wine, not for drinking but for sterilizing. Using a funnel made from a rolled papyrus leaf, you pour the wine into the empty skull, swishing it around to wash the interior. The wine that drains out is tinged with red, and it is collected in a separate basin. After the wine, you use another liquid, cedar oil. This precious, fragrant oil is a powerful preservative. You pour it into the cavity, ensuring it coats every surface. The sharp, clean scent of the cedar fills the workshop, overpowering the other smells and replacing them with a sense of purity and holiness. The head is now cleansed and protected from within. Your final step for this stage is to pack the empty cranium. You use long strips of linen, soaked in heated resin. Carefully push the strips of cloth into the skull, one after another, using the straight end of your bronze rod to pack them tightly. You are refilling the void you created, not with meaningless matter, but with sacred, preserving materials. This gives the head shape and support, ensuring it will not collapse over the centuries. The most secret and delicate part of your work is now complete. You run a damp cloth over Kenneman's face, wiping away any trace of your work. His expression is unchanged. He is still serene, still peaceful. The gateway you created is invisible. To the untrained eye, it is as if nothing has been done at all. This is the mark of a true master. You step back from the table, stretching your tired back. The eastern sky is just beginning to turn a pale gray. The dawn is coming. You have worked through the entire night, but you are not finished. You are only just beginning. The body still holds its other perishable secrets within its chest and abdomen. You look at the box of tools, and your gaze falls upon the small, black obsidian blade. still wrapped in its linen cloth. That is the tool for the next stage. A new prayer forms in your mind, a prayer to Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of both healing and destruction, for you are about to make a cut. A single, sacred incision that must be both an opening and a healing. The sun will rise soon, and with its first light, the next part of your ritual will begin. The first rays of dawn spill into the wabbit, painting the stone floor in soft hues of gray and rose. The cool night air is beginning to retreat, replaced by the first hints of the day's warmth. The lamps, which seemed so bright in the darkness, now cast a pale, weak glow, and one of your assistants moves silently to extinguish them. A new day has begun, a day dedicated to the sacred emptying of Kenaman's earthly vessel. You have taken a short break, rinsing your hands and face in cool water and eating a small piece of bread. Your work requires immense stamina, not just of the body, but of the mind. Now, you return to the limestone slab where the nobleman lies in patient silence. Your mind is clear, your focus renewed. It is time to open the body, to release the organs that tied Kenaman to the world of the living, his breath, his hunger, his thirst. An assistant brings you the small wooden box containing the obsidian blade. You unwrap it from its linen covering. The blade's edge is a line of perfect blackness, impossibly sharp. It is a sacred instrument, far more than a simple knife. It is believed to be made from the tears of a god, and its use is strictly governed by ritual. You hold it up to the morning light, its surface gleaming. This tool will make the only cut your hands will inflict upon the body. All other work is done with blunt hooks and the gentle pressure of your fingers. Another assistant, known as the scribe, approaches with a small palette of ink and a papyrus brush. He dips the brush in black ink, and on the left flank of Kenaman's abdomen, he draws a straight, clean line. This is the designated path for your incision. It is a mark of respect, a way of showing that this is not a random act of mutilation, but a planned and sacred procedure. It is a guide for your hand, ensuring the cut is perfect. Now, a strange and ancient part of the ritual must be performed. The man who makes the cut, the ripper, is not one of your trained assistants. He is a lower caste man, one who lives on the fringes of the necropolis. His role is to bear the ritual impurity of the act of cutting the flesh. He enters the wabbit, his face veiled, his eyes downcast. He takes the obsidian blade from your hand, his own trembling slightly. You step back. In this moment, he is the actor, and you are the witness. He makes the cut swiftly, following the inked line with a single, deep slash. It is a clean and precise wound. The moment the skin is broken, a collective sigh seems to pass through the room. The seal is broken. The ripper drops the obsidian blade to the floor as if it has burned him. Then he turns and flees the wabbit. As he runs, your assistants perform their part of the ritual, shouting ritual curses after him and throwing small stones in his direction. It is a symbolic act, a transference of any potential sin or impurity associated with cutting a sacred body onto this designated scapegoat. He accepts this role, for it is his living. The blade is then carefully picked up to be purified and sharpened for its next use. With the ritual of the cut completed, you step forward once more. The impurity is gone. Your work is now one of purification. The opening is just large enough for you to insert your hand. The air fills with the coppery scent of blood and the deeper, muskier smell of the body's interior. You are not repulsed. To you, this is the smell of humanity, the very essence of life, and your job is to guide it toward eternity. You wash your hands and arms in palm wine before you begin. Then you reach inside the body cavity. Your touch is gentle but firm, your fingers trained to recognize each organ by its shape, its texture, its weight. This is a landscape you know by heart. First you locate the stomach, the seat of hunger, then the long coiled ropes of the intestines. You work carefully using small bronze hooks to gently detach the organs from the membranes that hold them in place. There is no violent tearing. Each movement is deliberate, respectful. You are not gutting an animal. You are liberating a man from his earthly needs. One by one, you draw the organs out through the incision and place them in a wide clay bowl. The liver, the stomach, the intestines, and finally, the lungs, which held his last breath. They are rinsed with palm wine, washing away the residues of life. Then you pack them with fragrant herbs and spices, myrrh, cinnamon, and crushed onion seeds, which will both purify them and help in their preservation. Now comes the most important moment. You reach deep into the chest cavity, past the space where the lungs resided, and you touch the heart. It is still in its place. The heart, the IB, will not be removed. It is the seat of the soul, the record of a person's life, the witness that will testify before the gods. To remove it would be to rob Kenneman of his identity and his chance at eternal life. You gently touch the great muscle, murmuring a prayer that it may be found light and true when weighed against the feather of Mat. You leave it resting in its rightful place, a silent, powerful anchor for the soul. With the organs removed and cleansed, your attention turns to the 4 canopic jars. These are not simple containers. They're sacred vessels, each with a lid carved in the shape of one of the 4 sons of Horus, the divine guardians of the viscera. An assistant brings them forward. The first has the head of a human, Imsidi, who will guard the liver. The second has the head of a baboon, Hapi, a different Hapi from the river god, who will protect the lungs. The third has the head of a jackal, Duamutiv, the guardian of the stomach. And the fourth has the head of a falcon, Kebasanuf, who will watch over the intestines. You take each organ and carefully place it within its designated jar. As you place the liver in Imsadi's jar, you speak the words of protection for it. You do the same for the lungs, the stomach, and the intestines, addressing each son of Horus by name and asking for his eternal guardianship. The jars are then filled with a solution of natron to preserve their contents, and the sacred lids are sealed in place. They will be placed in the tomb with the body, a vital part of the whole. A person could not be complete in the afterlife without them. The body cavity is now empty, save for the heart. You must cleanse this space as thoroughly as you did the cranium. Your assistants bring you large jugs of palm wine, and you pour it into the chest and abdomen, washing the interior walls, removing any remaining blood and tissue. Asa, the used wine, flows down the groove of the stone table and into the basin below, taking with it the last remnants of Kenneman's mortal life. After the wine, the cavity must be dried. Assistants bring clean linen cloths, and you painstakingly wipe every surface of the interior. It is a long and arduous process. Any remaining moisture is an invitation to decay your eternal enemy. When you are finished, the cavity is clean and dry. Now you must fill the void, not just for structure, but for purification. You do not use simple stuffing. Use temporary packs of natron, bundled in linen bags, along with fragrant resins and bundles of herbs. Push these deep into the chest and abdominal cavities, ensuring they fill the space completely. These packs will help to draw moisture out from the inside of the body during the long drying process that is to come. Finally, you address the incision itself. You bring the edges of the wound together. You do not sew it shut yet. Instead, you cover it with a small prepared plaque of beeswax. Engraved on this plaque is the sacred eye of Horus, the Wadjet eye. It is a powerful symbol of healing, protection, and restoration. By placing it over the incision, you are not merely closing a wound, or magically healing it, making the body whole again, and protecting it from any evil spirits that might try to enter through the opening you created. The sun is now high in the sky. As the most invasive part of your work is done. As the brain is gone, the organs are safe with the sons of Horus. The heart is secure, and the body has been ritually cleansed and sealed. Kenneman's form now lies on the table, still and peaceful. But he is much lighter now, emptied of all that made him a creature of the earth. He is ready for the salt. He is ready for the long, silent wait in the embrace of the desert's purifying breath. The next stage of his journey requires no action, no tools, and no more cuts. It requires only time, patience, and the powerful, desiccating magic of the natron. Your work as a surgeon is over. Your work as a patient guardian is about to begin. Your work of the knife and the hook is done. The sacred violence of opening and emptying is over. Now begins a period of quietude, a long, slow conversation between the flesh of a man and the salt of the earth. The next stage of your craft is not measured in hours of intense labor, but in the patient turning of nearly 40 days and 40 nights. You have become less of a surgeon and more of a guardian, a watchman over a slow and holy transformation. Your primary tool now is natron. It is not mere salt. To you, it is a divine substance, the crystallized breath of the desert. Harvested from the dry lake beds of the Wadi el Natron far to the north, it arrives at your workshop in heavy sacks, a coarse, granular mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. It looks like gritty, grayish-white sand, and it feels cool and dry to the touch. It has a clean, sharp scent, like the air after a lightning strike. This substance, you believe, is a gift from the gods, for it has the power to cheat decay. It does not fight moisture, it drinks it. It does not cover the scent of corruption, it purifies it, leaving only a clean, eternal vessel. On one side of the Wabbit, there is a low stone platform built to keep the bodies away from the dampness of the floor. It is here that the long wait will take place. Your assistants bring several sacks of the natron, piling it onto the platform to create a thick, sloping bed of salt, like a snowdrift in the heart of the desert. The mound is perhaps a foot deep, ready to receive its silent occupant. With 4 of your assistants, you carefully lift the body of Kenneman from the limestone table. It feels different now, lighter, and strangely hollow. You carry him with the same reverence as before, your movements slow and coordinated. You place him gently onto the bed of salt, laying him on his back. His body sinks slightly into the granular crystals, which rustle softly as they shift to accommodate his weight. His skin, still soft and pale, is a stark contrast against the grayish white of the natron. Now, you must cover him completely. You take up large wooden scoops, and you and your team begin to pour the natron over the body. It is a quiet, rhythmic process. The salt flows like sand in an hourglass, a steady whisper that is the only sound in the workshop. You cover his feet, his legs, his torso. You build the salt up around his sides. You are not just burying him. You are creating a second skin, a cocoon of pure desiccating earth. You use your hands to push the natron into every crevice, under his arms, between his fingers, ensuring that every part of his body is in direct contact with the salt. Special care is taken with the head. You build the salt up around his neck, supporting it, and gently pour the finer grains over his face. For a moment, his noble features are still visible beneath a thin veil of white, like a memory fading into dust. Then, with a final scoop, he is gone. Where the body of a man once lay, there is now only a large, silent mound of natron, its shape vaguely human. It's a temporary tomb within your workshop. You have done this countless times, yet the moment the body is completely covered, a profound stillness always descends upon the wobbit. The urgent, focused energy of the last day and night has vanished. It is replaced by a deep and abiding quiet. Your work is now to wait, to watch, and to listen to the silence. The first few days are when the natron is most active. It is a thirsty substance, and it immediately begins its work of drawing the water from the body within. The surface of the mound, once dry, begins to show dark, damp patches as the salt pulls the moisture to the surface. The clean, sharp smell of the natron is now mixed with a heavier, more organic scent. It is not the smell of rot, but the smell of transformation, the scent of life giving way to permanence. You and your assistants will tend to the mound daily. You will scrape away the damp, discolored clumps of salt and replace them with fresh, dry natron from the sacks. You are like a farmer tending his field, ensuring the conditions for this strange harvest remain perfect. But your days are not empty. The wobbit is a place of constant, cyclical work. While Kenneman lies in his silent bed of salt, the family of a lesser merchant may arrive with their deceased. For them, you will perform the simpler method, the one using the cedar oil, forgoing the incision. Your workshop will be filled with the sharp, clean scent of the oil as you perform the infusion. Or a poor farmer's family may come, able to afford only the most basic preservation. You will treat their loved one with the same respect, cleansing the body and laying it in a smaller natron mound for its 70-day wait. Note to narrator: the 70 days mentioned in the negotiation was a standard ritual number. The actual natron process was closer to 40 days, with the remaining time for wrapping. Your life is a tapestry of greetings and preparations, of long, quiet intervals and final, meticulous farewells. During this waiting period, you also prepare for the final stage of Kenneman's journey, the wrapping. An embalmer is not just a surgeon. He's also a master weaver, a tailor for eternity. You inspect the bolts of linen that were part of the payment from Kenneman's family. It is the finest quality, a white, almost translucent fabric. You and your assistants will spend hours cutting it into strips of varying widths, long wide strips for the limbs and torso, thinner, more delicate strips for the fingers and toes. You will need hundreds of square yards of this linen. The strips are cut, rolled, and stored, ready for the day Kinnaman emerges from the salt. You also attend to the sacred objects that will be wrapped within the linen. Amulets. These are not mere decorations. They are powerful magical objects, each with a specific purpose. There is the Jed pillar, a symbol of stability for the spine. The Ankh, the symbol of life, to be placed over the heart. The scarab beetle, a potent symbol of rebirth and regeneration, will be one of the most important. You do not carve these yourself. They are made by specialized artisans, but you are the one who blesses them, reciting the ancient spells from the Book of the Dead, activating their power before they are used. As the days turn into weeks, you watch the mound of natron. The process slows. The dark, damp patches become less frequent. The natron is winning its battle. The heavy organic smell fades, replaced once more by the clean scent of salt and the fainter, spicier aroma of the resins packed within the body cavity. You can feel the change without even seeing it. The air in the wabbit feels drier, calmer. The transformation is nearing its completion. You can sense the new state of the body within its mound. It is becoming lighter, harder, more permanent. It is no longer a body in the way the living understand it. It is becoming an icon, a statue of flesh, an eternal house for the soul. The 40 days are almost over. Soon it will be time to see the results of your patient work. Soon you will unveil what the salt and the silence have created. The 40th day arrives, not with a grand ceremony, but with the same quiet dawn that has marked all the days before it. But today, the air in the wabbit holds a different quality, a sense of anticipation of a cycle reaching its conclusion. The long, silent conversation between the body and the salt is over. It is time to see what has been created. You approach the mound of natron. It has sat undisturbed for weeks, a still and silent feature of your workshop. From the outside, nothing appears to have changed, but you know that within that gray-white cocoon, a profound transformation has taken place. You and two of your most trusted assistants stand before it, holding wide, flat wooden boards. There is no need for words. You have done this together 100 times. You begin to scrape away the top layer of salt. Your movements are careful, almost reverent, like an archaeologist brushing the dust from a long-lost relic. The dry natron whispers as it cascades onto the stone floor. First, you uncover the vague outline of the chest, then the shoulders. Slowly, methodically, you work your way up toward the head. The features of Kenneman begin to emerge from the salt, and the sight is always a quiet miracle of your craft. The face that is revealed is not the pale, soft face you covered 40 days ago. The skin is now dark, the color of tanned leather or ancient polished wood. It is drawn taut over the bones, revealing the noble structure of his skull, his high cheekbones, his strong jaw. The flesh has not decayed. It has been transfigured. It has become something dense, permanent, and eternal. His eyes are sunken. His lips are drawn back in a serene, almost imperceptible smile. He is no longer a man sleeping. He is an effigy of himself, perfected and purified. You continue to brush away the salt, revealing the rest of his form. The body is shrunken, desiccated, every ounce of moisture drawn out of it. The skin of his torso is tight against his rib cage, and his limbs are thin and hard. When the last of the natron has been brushed away, you and your assistants prepare to lift him. You brace yourself for a weight that is no longer there. As you slide your hands beneath his back and legs, you are struck by how incredibly light he is. He weighs no more than a large bundle of sticks. He has become a vessel of memory, emptied of all the water and weight of earthly life. You carry him back to the main limestone embalming table. The sound of his body being placed on the stone is not a soft thud, but a hard, dry clatter, like wood against stone. He is rigid, inflexible, a statue carved from flesh and bone. The scent that rises from him is no longer the heavy organic smell of the first few days. It is the clean, dry scent of the desert itself, of salt, of cedar, of myrrh, of thyme. But your work is not yet finished. The body is permanent, but it is not yet pure. It is caked in a fine dust of natron, and the skin is brittle and covered in salt crystals. he must be cleaned and prepared for the final wrapping. This is a delicate process. You cannot use water, for that would undo the 40 days of patient work, inviting moisture back into the very place you worked so hard to banish it from. Instead, you use linen cloths, slightly dampened with palm wine. You begin with his face, gently wiping away the salty residue. You clean inside his ears, his nostrils, around his closed eyes. Your movements are those of a carer tending to the living. This is an act of respect, of restoring dignity to the vessel. You work your way down the body, wiping the hard, leathery skin, polishing it, removing every last grain of natron. You clean between his fingers and toes, which are now as hard and delicate as twigs. The skin, as you wipe it, takes on a dark, burnished sheen. Once the body is clean, it must be anointed. The 40 days in the salt have made the body eternal, but also incredibly brittle. If you were to wrap it now, the dry skin might crack and break. You must restore a measure of flexibility to it, a suppleness that will allow it to be swathed in linen without damage. This is a sacred anointing, a final act of consecration before the body is sealed away. An assistant brings you a bowl containing a thick, fragrant mixture. It is a balm made of cedar oil, juniper oil, fragrant gums, and beeswax, all gently heated over a low flame until it is a warm, viscous liquid. The aroma that fills the wabbit is divine. It is the scent of the temples, a holy perfume that signals the presence of the gods. You dip your hands into the warm, oily balm. You begin, once again, with the head. You gently massage the fragrant oil into the dry, leathery skin of his scalp, his face, his neck. The oil is absorbed quickly, darkening the skin to a deep, rich brown and giving it a soft, waxy luster. You are not just moisturizing the skin, you are sealing it, creating an impermeable barrier against the outside world. You move down to his chest and arms, your oiled hands moving in long, slow strokes. You work the balm into every fold and crevice. This is a silent, meditative process. With each application of the oil, you are saying a prayer. You are honoring the body that carried a great man through his life. You are preparing this eternal house for the return of his Ka and Ba. Your touch is not that of a mortician, but of a priest, preparing a sacred statue for the temple. The process takes hours. Every inch of the body must be anointed, front and back. When you are finished, the body of Kenneman gleams in the soft light of the workshop. He no longer looks like a desiccated corpse. He looks like a figure carved from some precious dark wood polished to a high sheen. The scent of the sacred oils has banished the last hint of the smell of death, replacing it with the perfume of eternity. Now, you must attend to the details of his appearance. You use small pads of linen to plump out his cheeks, restoring a semblance of the fullness they had in life. You place linen pads behind his eyelids to prevent them from sinking further into his skull. You are a sculptor, making the final touches to your masterpiece. The goal is to create a serene, idealized version of the man, a face that is both recognizable and timeless. Finally, the body is ready. It has been emptied, dried, cleansed, and anointed. It is a perfect, permanent, and pure vessel. It rests upon the stone table, fragrant and gleaming, awaiting the final stage of its journey with you. The great bolts of white linen are waiting. The sacred amulets are ready. The long and meticulous process of wrapping, of sealing him away from the world forever, is about to begin. You have transformed the perishable flesh of a man into an eternal icon. Now you must dress him for his journey to the gods. The body of Kenneman now lies anointed and prepared, a gleaming, fragrant vessel awaiting its final coverings. But before the first strip of linen can be laid upon his skin, you must attend to the interior of his form one last time. The temporary packs of natron and herbs that you placed within his chest and abdomen have served their purpose. They have drawn out the deep, internal moisture, and now they must be removed. You approach the beeswax plaque bearing the eye of Horus that still seals the incision on his flank. For 40 days it has healed and protected this sacred opening. Now you gently warm the edges of the wax with a heated bronze tool, softening it until you can peel it away. The skin beneath is dark, dry, and perfectly preserved. You set the plaque aside. Its magical duty is done. Reaching once more into the body cavity, you carefully remove the linen bags of spent natron. They are heavy and damp, having absorbed the last vestiges of Kenneman's mortal humidity. They are discarded, their purifying work complete. The interior of the body is now a hollow, dry cavern, smelling faintly of the resins you used 40 days ago. This emptiness must be filled, not just to create a more lifelike shape, but to prevent the hollow form from collapsing under the immense pressure of the linen wrappings to come. What you use for this permanent packing depends on the status of the deceased. For Kenneman, a man of great importance, only the finest materials will do. Your assistants bring you bowls filled with the new stuffing. There are bundles of clean resin-soaked linen, bags of fine sawdust from the sacred cedar tree, and a generous amount of dried myrrh and cassia. You begin to fill the cavity, your arm disappearing deep into the dark interior. You are not just randomly stuffing the materials inside. You are sculpting from within. You push the linen bundles up into the chest, recreating the presence of the lungs. You carefully pack the abdominal cavity, giving it a firmness and weight that it lacked just moments before. You are restoring a semblance of wholeness to the body, replacing the transient organs of life with the permanent, fragrant materials of eternity. This process is slow and meticulous. You ensure that every space is filled, that there are no hollows, no empty voids left within. When the cavity is finally full, you must close the incision forever. This is not done with a simple stitch. An assistant, who is a master of the task, comes forward with a bronze needle and a thread of tough linen twine. With precise, practiced movements, he begins to sew the hard, leathery edges of the incision together. The needle moves in and out of the skin, pulling the two sides into a tight, clean seam. It is the work of a master leather worker, creating a stitch that will last for thousands of years. The body is now whole once more, sealed and complete. Your attention now turns to the smaller details of his form, the final touches that will prepare him for his Osirian pose, the posture of rebirth. His fingernails and toenails, which have been perfectly preserved by the natron, are now carefully cleaned one last time. In some cases, for the highest nobility, you might cap each finger and toe with a sheath of gold to protect them and ensure they are not damaged during the wrapping. For Kenneman, you carefully paint them with a natural henna dye, restoring a touch of color and life to his extremities. You then bring his arms forward, crossing them over his chest. His right arm is placed over his left, his hands resting on his shoulders. This is the classic posture of Osiris, the great god of the underworld and resurrection. It is a powerful statement. Kenneman is no longer just a deceased nobleman. He's identified with the god himself, ready to be reborn into the afterlife. You gently bind his wrists together with a strip of linen to hold them in this sacred position. You do the same with his ankles, bringing his feet together, making his form a single, unified column. The body is now complete. Internally, it is filled with sacred materials. Externally, it is anointed and sealed. His posture is one of divine rebirth. 8. He lies on the stone table, a perfect and silent effigy, waiting. The air in the wabbit is thick with the scent of oils and resins, a holy perfume. The setting sun casts long golden rays into the workshop, illuminating the millions of dust motes dancing in the air. All around the table, your assistants have laid out the tools for the final great task. There are hundreds of meticulously rolled bandages, from the widest for the torso to the thinnest for the fingers. There are bowls of warm liquid resin, sticky and dark like honey, which will act as the glue to seal the wrappings. And there are the sacred amulets, blessed and charged with magic. Laid out on a clean linen cloth, each one waiting for its proper place within the layers of the cocoon you are about to build, the period of waiting is over. The period of deconstruction and purification has passed. Now begins the final act of your craft. The act of construction, of wrapping, of sealing. You are about to swaddle Kenamon in a protective shell of linen and magic, a sacred armor for his journey through the underworld. You stand for a moment, looking at the silent form, the tools, the bandages. Everything is ready. The long, patient, and methodical art of the linseal can now begin. The final stage of your craft has arrived. It is a work of profound intimacy and patience, an art form expressed in linen and resin. For the next 10 to 15 days, your world will shrink to the space around this stone table. You will become a weaver, a sculptor, and a priest, all at once. Your task is to build a new body for Kenamon, a protective shell of cloth and magic that will endure for millions of years. This is the art of the linseal, the sacred swaddling, and it begins not with the great sweeping wraps of the torso, but with the smallest, most delicate parts of his form. You start with the hands. An assistant brings a small bowl of warm liquid resin. It's a dark, sticky substance made from coniferous trees, and it smells of pine and incense. It serves as both a magical sealant and a powerful adhesive, ensuring the bandages will never unravel. You dip your fingers into the resin and begin to anoint his right hand, coating each of the hard, leathery fingers. Then you take the thinnest strips of linen, no wider than your thumb. This is the most detailed and painstaking part of the entire process, a technique known as papillinage. Start with his thumb. Place one end of the linen strip at the tip of the nail and begin to wrap. Your movements are precise, your tension perfect. You wrap in a tight, overlapping spiral, moving from the tip down to the knuckle. Each layer is painted with a thin coat of the warm resin, which immediately soaks into the fabric, binding it to the layer below. The white of the linen becomes a translucent amber color as the resin saturates it. Once the thumb is completely encased in its own tiny cocoon, you press the end of the strip down and hold it for a moment until the resin seals it. Then you move to the index finger, and then the next, and the next. It is a slow, meditative rhythm. Wrap, paint with resin, seal. Wrap, paint, seal. The workshop is silent, save for the soft sound of the linen strips being pulled taut and the gentle bubbling of the resin pot over its low charcoal fire. This is not just a physical task. It is a ritual of separation and definition. By wrapping each finger individually, you are preserving its unique identity within the whole. You are ensuring that in the afterlife, Kinemon will have distinct fingers with which to grasp the tools of paradise, to hold the hand of his wife, and to gesture in prayer to the gods. It is an act of profound respect for the integrity of the human form. It takes you several hours just to complete one hand. When you are finished, his right hand is no longer a dark, desiccated claw. It is a sculpture of white and amber, each finger perfectly articulated, though now slightly thicker than in life. You repeat the entire process on the left hand, your focus unwavering. As you work, the sun moves across the sky, its light shifting through the open side of the wabbit, but you barely notice. Your universe is the tiny landscape of a single finger. After the hands, you turn your attention to the feet, repeating the exact same meticulous process on each of his toes. The principle is the same, to preserve the individuality of each part before unifying them into the whole. With the fingers and toes separately wrapped, you can now begin to unify them. You take a slightly wider bandage and begin to wrap the entire hand, binding the cocooned fingers together, transforming the articulated hand into a single mitten-like shape. You do the same with the feet. This first innermost layer of wrapping is now complete. It is a foundation of immense detail upon which you will build the rest of the mummy. Next, you must encase the limbs. You take a wider roll of linen and begin at the right wrist, wrapping upwards toward the shoulder. Your wrapping is never random. You follow a precise, crisscrossing pattern like a weaver creating a complex textile. Each layer overlaps the last by exactly half its width, ensuring a smooth, even surface. After every few layers of linen, you pause to paint the entire surface with hot resin, locking the bandages in place and adding to the protective shell. As you wrap, you begin to place the first of the sacred amulets. Over his bound wrists, you place a Tayet amulet, the knot of Isis, carved from red jasper. This powerful symbol offers the protection of the great mother goddess. You carefully wrap it into the linen layers, ensuring it is held securely against his skin, its magic sealed within. You wrap his left arm in the same manner. Then you move to the legs, starting at the ankles and working your way up to the hips. The process is the same, the patient overlapping layers of linen, the regular application of hot, dark resin. The body of Kinemon slowly begins to disappear under a sheath of white and gold. The dark, leathery skin is gone, replaced by the clean, hard shell of the wrappings. He is slowly being transformed, layer by layer, from a representation of a man into a sacred object. With the extremities meticulously wrapped, the foundation of your work is laid. Now you must unify these individual parts into a single, cohesive form. The process expands from the delicate work of fingers and toes to the grand sweeping task of encasing the entire body. You are no longer focused on the small details, but on the overall shape and structure of the eternal vessel you are creating. You begin by binding the separately wrapped limbs to the torso. You take long, wide strips of linen and begin to wrap in a figure-8 pattern, looping the bandage around one arm, across the chest, around the other arm, and then around the back. You pull each layer taut, the resin-soaked fabric clinging to the layers beneath. With each pass, the body becomes more solid, more unified. The crossed arms, once held only by a temporary tie, are now permanently locked in their sacred Osirian posture, becoming an integral part of the torso's mass. You do the same with the legs, binding them together from ankle to hip until they form a single strong column. Now, before you build up more layers, it is time for the first of the great shrouds. An assistant helps you unfold a massive sheet of linen large enough to envelop the entire body. On this sheet, a scribe has meticulously written, in black and red ink, powerful hymns and spells from the Book of the Dead. There are prayers to Osiris, incantations to ward off demons of the underworld, and a map to help guide the soul of Kenneman through the perilous journey ahead. You drape this inscribed shroud over the body, tucking it in carefully, a new and powerful skin of magic. You anoint the entire surface with liquid resin, sealing the divine words against the form, making them a permanent and unbreachable part of his protective armor. Upon this new surface, over the place where you know his heart rests, you will now place the most important amulet of all, the heart scarab. An assistant brings it to you on a clean linen cloth. It is a beautiful object, the size of your palm, carved from a deep green stone that represents life and resurrection. Its top is the perfect image of a scarab beetle, the symbol of the god Khepri, who pushes the sun across the sky each morning. But it is the underside of the amulet that holds its true power. Etched into the flat stone base is a spell, a direct and desperate plea from the deceased to his own heart. You hold the scarab for a moment, feeling its weight in its cool, smooth surface. You quietly recite the words carved upon it, activating its magic. "Oh, my heart, which I had from my mother," you whisper, the ancient words familiar on your tongue. "Oh, my heart of my different ages, do not stand up as a witness against me. Do not oppose me in the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance." This is the ultimate safeguard. You're commanding the heart, the seat of Kenneman's conscience, not to betray him during the final judgment when it is weighed against the feather of truth. With the utmost care, you place the heavy stone scarab directly over his chest. You then secure it with thin linen strips, lashing it down so it cannot move. Its power is now bound to him for eternity. With the heart scarab in place, the constructive wrapping can begin in earnest. The desiccated body is angular and thin, and your goal is to restore a more idealized, robust human form. You use pads and rolls of linen as stuffing. You place thick pads on either side of his torso to give it width. You fill the sunken space of his abdomen to create a gentle, rounded shape. You carefully place a large roll of linen between his bound legs, filling the gap and turning two limbs into one solid pillar. You are a sculptor, and your medium is cloth. As you build up the layers, you strategically place more amulets. Along the length of his spine, on top of a new layer of wrapping, you place a long, slender jade pillar carved from blue faience. This represents the backbone of Osiris, a potent symbol of stability and endurance. It will give Kinnaman strength and ensure he can stand upright in the afterlife. You wrap over it, sealing it within. You place an ankh, the hieroglyph for life, on his lower abdomen. Other, smaller amulets are tucked into the folds of the bandages at his neck, his knees, and his elbows, each one a secret source of power, a hidden well of magic. The rhythm of the work becomes a moving meditation. You and your assistants circled the table, unspooling endless rolls of linen. Your primary technique is a spiral wrap, starting from the feet and moving in a continuous overlapping band all the way to the shoulders. Then you will do it again in the opposite direction, creating a strong crisscrossing weave. After every few layers are complete, the entire body is painted with hot resin. The workshop fills with the thick, cloying smell of it, and the white of the linen is constantly being transformed into a hard amber-colored shell. The body grows in bulk. The once thin form is now thick and cylindrical, The details, the arms, the legs, the shape of the hips are all gone, absorbed into a single, massive cocoon. The mummy is now incredibly heavy, not with the weight of flesh and water, but with the dense, accumulated weight of hundreds of yards of linen and countless layers of hardened resin. Finally, after days of this work, you turn your attention to the head. The wrapping here must be the most precise. You use finer strips of linen, creating a complex crisscrossing pattern over the face and skull. You are creating a smooth ovoid shape, a perfect featureless base upon which the final identity of the man will be restored. You build up the layers on his neck, ensuring the head is supported and properly aligned with the body. When you are finished, the transformation is almost complete. Lying on the table is no longer the body of Kenamon. It is a massive, anonymous, white and amber cocoon. It is hard to the touch, and if you were to tap it, it would make a sound like knocking on wood. It is a solid, impenetrable object, sealed against time, moisture, and all the evils of the underworld. The man is gone, hidden deep within. Oh, you must give this sacred object a face. The great cocoon lies silent on the stone slab. It is a work of immense labor, a dense and heavy vessel of linen and resin, but it is anonymous. The individual Kenamon is lost within its layers. Your final task before he leaves your care is to restore his identity, to give this sacred object a face so that his soul, his Ba, may recognize its eternal home. This process begins with the final shrouds. You and your assistants take another enormous sheet of fine white linen. This one is not covered in texts, but in a portrait. An artist, commissioned by the family, has painted a beautiful, idealized image of Kenamon as he was in the prime of his life. He is depicted with large, serene eyes, a calm smile, and wearing the fine clothes and elaborate wig of a nobleman. This is not a portrait of death, but an image of eternal life. The painting is a magical substitute, a permanent and perfect face for the soul to see. You carefully drape this portrait shroud over the head and torso of the mummy, aligning the painted face with the featureless wrapped head beneath. The image is startlingly lifelike against the anonymous form. Suddenly, the object has a personality again. You anoint the edges of the shroud with resin, sealing it in place. For a man of Kenamon's wealth and status, however, a painted portrait is not enough. He requires a true face, a mask of gold. Gold to you is not simply a precious metal. It is the skin of the gods, a substance that never tarnishes, never decays. It is the physical embodiment of eternity. An assistant brings forward the funeral mask. It has been crafted by master goldsmiths and artisans. It is not a solid gold death mask, but a beautiful construction of cartonnageliers of linen and plaster, gilded with fine gold leaf. The face is a masterwork of sculpture, an idealized and serene portrait of Kenamon. The eyes are wide and staring, inlaid with white calcite and black obsidian, giving them a piercing, lifelike gaze. The traditional false beard of a nobleman, plaited and curved at the end, is attached to the chin. The brow is adorned with the sacred symbols of the cobra and the vulture, goddesses of protection. This mask is more than a covering. It is a magical instrument. It will allow Kenamon to see, to breathe, and to speak in the afterlife. It is a divine face that will allow him to join the company of the gods. With the utmost reverence, you and an assistant lift the heavy mask. You carefully lower it over the wrapped head of the mummy. It fits perfectly. The transformation is breathtaking. The inert, anonymous cocoon is now a golden, divine being, staring into eternity with calm and powerful eyes. Kinemon has been given his face back, but it is now the face of a god. You secure the mask with linen bands that are tied at the back of the head, ensuring it will never be dislodged. The work of your hands, the 70-day process of purification and wrapping, is now complete. The mummy of Kinemon lies finished on the table, a magnificent and sacred object, heavy with linen, resin, amulets, and gold. He is ready to be placed in his coffin. Coffin makers deliver the nested coffins, a series of beautifully painted and inscribed wooden cases, each fitting perfectly inside the next, like the layers of an onion. With a final, coordinated effort, your team lifts the heavy mummy from the stone table for the last time. You carefully lower him into the innermost coffin. That's snug. You place the lid upon it, and for the first time in over 2 months, the form of Kinemon is hidden from your sight. The family is summoned. They arrive at the Wabbit, not with the wild grief of their first visit, but with a solemn, reverent awe. You present them with the sealed coffin. Her husband and father has been transformed. He is now ready for the final great public ceremony, the opening of the mouth. You will not perform this ritual that is the duty of the high priest, but you watch as the coffin is placed upright, and the priest touches the mouth of the golden mask with a sacred adze. This magical act is what will reanimate the senses, allowing the spirit of Kinemon, now housed in its perfect and eternal body, to eat, drink, speak, and see again in the afterlife. Your role in his journey is over. You have been the guardian of his mortal vessel, the surgeon of his purification, and the architect of his eternal form. You have worked your craft with skill, reverence, and patience. The coffin is taken by the family for its grand funeral procession to the tomb that has been prepared for it in the Valley of the Kings. You stand at the entrance of your Wabbit, the scent of resin and incense still clinging to your robes. You watch until the procession is a speck in the distance. Then you turn and walk back into your workshop. You and your assistants begin the long process of cleaning the limestone table, of sweeping the spent natron from the floor, and of preparing your tools. Your work is never truly done. In a city dedicated to the afterlife, another soul will soon begin its journey. And you, Hapu, Master of Secrets, will be there to greet them, ready to build another house for eternity. Our journey with Hapu and the nobleman he served is now at an end. We have witnessed the quiet precision of a master's hands, felt the dry chill of the purifying natron, and smelled the sacred resins meant to seal a body for eternity. It was a world where death was not an end, but a meticulous craft, where a quiet workshop was a gateway to the afterlife, where a long and patient duty ensured a soul's safe passage. That world of sacred oils, white linen, and the silent, starlit necropolis has now faded away, leaving only the quiet of the present moment. The embalmer's long and sacred work is over, and now so is yours. There is nothing left to do but to rest, to let go of the day, and to drift into the deep and peaceful sleep that you deserve. Rest now, sleep well,